Are Christians hypocrites? I think that's a great question. I think a lot of people look at Christianity and see some of the same struggles and same sins and are kind of like, I'm not too sure about that. So let's think about this a little bit. First off, I think hypocrisy is just basically saying one thing and doing another, or claiming to hold a certain value but not living accordingly. And certainly we are all hypocrites at a certain level. And just even thinking through maybe those levels, there's kind of an idealism where I might say, hey, we shouldn't sin, but I still sin. You shouldn't lust, but I still lust. You shouldn't get angry, but I still drive my car sometimes, And we can all relate to just saying things that are true, but we still struggle with those things that we may be preaching against. I think there can be secret sins that we also believe are wrong, but we might have fallen into and they're embarrassing and we don't want to come forward on those things. People who maybe have affairs or are engaged in something that's immoral, or even something like pornography. You know, just most pastors would probably preach against pornography, but most have probably struggled with it at some point. I know for me, at times it has been a struggle, and I can lust, and yet it's correct to preach against it. So sometimes it's hard just to be honest with our secret sins. It's hard for me. It's hard for everybody, I think. And then there are egregious sins, which maybe our secret sins could be those as well, but just real blatant, nasty hypocrisy of like, I think of like a preacher maybe preaching to a really poor crowd and saying, hey, you need to really be sacrificial and just think of all that God's done for you and you need to give back to him. Collects all the offering and then leaves and climbs into his Lamborghini and drives off. It's like, okay, it's just wrong. It's broken. It's nasty. And so are Christians hypocrites? Absolutely. Christians are hypocrites, and we all are to varying degrees. I think there's hope. I think there is hope in a trajectory of change and growth. And in the people I've been around, I've seen a lot of growth in people as they have pursued following Jesus, pursued living in the kingdom of God. And I think that's a really good thing. I think there's also hope in honesty of just not being a bunch of phonies and preaching one thing and living something different, and not just being open with, I yelled at somebody or I flipped somebody off the other day, or I lusted after something that came up on my computer. I think it's good for us to be honest with those things. And then each of us needs to examine ourselves. And I think there's a danger in kind of looking at other people and be like, oh, you're a bunch of hypocrites. Because the reality is we struggle with some of the same things. Jesus said this to the teachers and teachers of the law and the Pharisees. He says, woe to you, you hypocrites. You're like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. He's saying, you guys look great. You present yourselves really well. You act like you're real sinless and righteous and stuff, but I know the truth. On the inside, you're really a mess. You're broken. You're nasty. You're gross. And that's probably the reality for all of us. When you look on the inside, that there is a lot of brokenness and a lot of darkness and embarrassing, shameful things that are going on in our hearts. And apart from Christ, that's just kind of the spot that we're in. And that's why Jesus came. He said he didn't come for the healthy, he came for the sick. And he came for people who are broken on the inside. So I just want to encourage you, if you haven't put your faith in Jesus Christ and what he did for you on the cross, and you haven't received forgiveness from him, then I encourage you to do that, to put your faith in him today and to enter into a relationship with him and begin this journey of being transformed and changed. Put your own trajectory in a good place. And I think you'll find that it's challenging, but that it will be a wonderful journey of growth and becoming closer to Christ and, in a sense, more like him too.